So over a year ago, I finally made the plunge thanks to you guys watching the videos and supporting, and I've loved every minute of owning an electric vehicle. But of course, on a channel where we're often talking about what's next, what's coming out later, and what's the future hold for electric vehicles, a lot of you guys love asking what's the next electric vehicle purchase gonna look like in my life, and am I upgrading to Project Highland, am I upgrading to a Model S or X with these new price cuts and all that kind of stuff. So today's video is definitely a lot more of a personal one, not so much reporting on the news or speculating, but I hope it kind of opens you up to the mindset that I'm in, which is an obsession when it comes to efficiency and what exactly I'd be looking for in a next electric vehicle. But I should preface from the beginning, I'm not actively in the market. I'm very happy with the Model 3, and honestly, it's made me rethink my priorities quite a bit after owning it for a while, to the point that my next EV purchase is probably not the one I would have thought I'd be suggesting if you would have asked me just a couple years ago. So the main thing I've learned from owning a rear-wheel drive Model 3 is that sedans are incredibly underrated, as is charging speed. Before you make the plunge and buying an electric vehicle, so many people make a big deal about that maximum range number, but usually we're talking about a difference of a few dozen miles. You know, the long-range Model 3 goes 330 or so miles, and then the rear-wheel drive goes 270. Not drastically big differences in range. And when using apps like a Better Route Planner, I discovered that, okay, you know what? Even if I had all the money in the world right now and I decided I want to improve my road trip time, because, you know, that's where the longer range usually comes up when you're doing big road trips. Let's say I wanted to reduce my road trip time by as much as possible, and of course I want to have access to NACS and the supercharger network and everything. So let's say I buy the most efficient, longest range Tesla possible, the Model S long range, and I have over 400 miles of EPA estimated range. Yeah, let's plug that into a Better Route Planner and see how much time I would save by spending all of that extra money. And it typically results in about an hour less road trip time. Not really that substantial of a deal for that much money I would have to spend. And the point I'm trying to make about sedans being underrated is I still feel like there's so much storage space in the back of that Model 3, particularly when you fold the second row seats down. And you know, right now I don't have any kids, so it's not a real big priority for me to have a hatchback or to have more storage space. And honestly, I feel like if you get a little bit creative, you can actually fit quite a bit of stuff in the Model 3, and the edge cases in which a Model Y can hold more than the 3, in my opinion, are fairly slim. Or at least for my lifestyle, I still very much enjoy the smooth ride quality of the Model 3, and there have been times where I've needed to sit 5 people in the car. There's very rarely been an occasion where, oh, you know what, this would have been better if I had 7 seats in my car. Didn't come up a lot, and usually if the family was all cramming into a car, a 7-seat Model Y or even a 7-seat Model X would probably not have been a great solution due to the number of adults getting in the car, and everyone would have been crammed, and probably those other adults would have wanted to take their own car anyway. So my lifestyle basically does not justify a 7-seater, and as much as I love Rivians and I watch so many videos on R1Ts and my heart skips a beat, and I point it out to my wife anytime I spot a Rivian on the road, the truth is I'm really not huge into towing or off-roading. I had to drive a huge pickup truck actually for work a lot when I used to work at a mansion ranch, and I got sick of it. I really hated driving big trucks, especially when they had trailers and stuff attached to them. It's just a whole different type of driving with way more variables to account for, and you feel like a tank on the road. And while the Rivian would definitely be my first choice if I had to get a pickup truck because I prefer the smaller overall size, I'm not one of those people that are like, give me the biggest pickup truck possible. I'm all in favor of give me, you know, a practical vehicle that forces me to be like a bit more creative with how I throw things in the back, and that's what I love about the R1T's bed with that gooseneck style tailgate opening. It still can extend to be a bigger bed if you need it to, but when you don't need it to, which is most of the time, it's still a fairly compact design that can easily navigate in tight spaces and fit in tinier parking spaces. And the proportions really of the Rivian R1T are what wow me so much about efficient truck design. And similarly with my Model 3, it just feels like I can tuck that little car into as many parking spaces as I can find, and I don't feel like this big clunky tank trying to get everybody out of my way, and I gotta be more careful. I just feel like I'm gonna be more liable if I drove around a big vehicle. So I know I talk a lot about the Cybertruck and the Rivian R1T on this channel, and as much as I'm excited for those vehicles to come out and I can't wait to test drive them and give you more first impressions videos or updates or hopefully pricing and range information videos in the the not too distant future, they're really not vehicles I could see myself buying. Even if I entered that Cybertruck raffle and won a free one, the truth is I would probably drive around that Cybertruck with the exact same intentions that I drive around my Model 3. It would be to visit family and friends, to pack some luggage when we're taking a longer road trip. It would just be wasted. I would just be consuming way more energy, wearing out the road systems faster. That's why I'm still such a big fan of the Model 3, is because of that efficiency. So if there is anything else on the market that would actually capture my attention, no, it's not a 7-seater, because I don't really have that big a family that I need to move around all that much. And no, because I'm not a handyman or a heavy camper or someone that needs to tow trailers or go off-roading all the time. A pickup truck doesn't really fit my needs or my lifestyle very much. It would just be kind of inefficient, and I would probably just end up driving it around like a sedan. Even though I like the idea of owning a pickup truck, like I can picture myself in the driver's seat and being like, yeah, I think I'm cool. I'm in a truck, which is honestly what I think a lot of Americans buy trucks for, but you gotta fight that stigma, because if you really don't need it, you really shouldn't be paying for it. So what I'm looking for genuinely in a future electric vehicle is truthfully something that can just reduce the overall trip time, because I don't notice a huge trip time difference between the best of the best range Tesla, the Model S, and my almost worst range Tesla, the Model 3, knowing that, okay, I could spend maybe twice the money on a better car and maybe save an hour on a day's worth of driving. That's not a tremendously good selling point. So what I'm going to be looking for whenever that day comes for a second EV has definitely got to be a combination of how good is your fast charging speed, and I'm hoping that maybe Tesla could start rolling out higher voltage V4 superchargers to accommodate for that. And again, because I'm not in the market in the near future, there's time for other companies to actually cater to my demographic and make longer range EVs with really great fast charging curves, because when 2025 rolls around, most of the auto industry, including Tesla of course, is all going to be rocking NACS, and that means we can access the V3 and V4 superchargers of the future. Because if you're like a Lucid Air with an over 500-mile range, but you struggle with the Signet surge coming from Electrify America all the time, it doesn't actually translate into better road tripping. A lot of our road trips, we end up going well over 700 or 800 miles, so that obviously is going to require some kind of DC fast charging, whether it's a Lucid or a Tesla. And charging curve is certainly going to make a bigger difference on how quickly I can get to see my loved ones, get to see my friends, and just make that overall road trip experience more enjoyable, because obviously driving all day can kind of wear you out no matter how nice the car is. Not to say that I'm not enjoying it in my Model 3, but I can foresee that I'm going to continue doing a lot of these road trips in the future, particularly thanks to all of this free supercharging that Tesla offers to creators like me. It certainly makes the financial incentive of driving opposed to flying a lot more reasonable, because, you know, hey, I'm getting a free road trip with some of these referral credits. So I think a Cybertruck is still going to be pretty overkill and way more expensive than what I could justify, but if future generations of the Model 3, Y, or S, or whatever are able to support more like 350 kilowatt charging, and not even really the peak speed is that important. What matters is how long it could sustain those speeds, which is why in my Model S wishlist video I was saying so much how I think Tesla's higher end vehicles should prioritize more higher voltage architectures and maybe better battery management systems, so that they can have a charging curve closer to that of something like a Porsche Taycan, and actually maintain over 200 kilowatts really deep into the battery pack, so that you can just head out on your way and hopefully match the amazing road trip time that I could get with my last car, an old 2007 Hyundai Sonata. As old and as clunky as that car is, it was able to achieve an amazing road trip time for whenever I needed to visit friends or family members down south or up north. I could get there in record time because it went over 500 miles on a tank, and I could just stop at a gas pump for about 10 minutes, use the restroom, and then be on our way. Although, as we've talked about in previous videos, I don't think an electric vehicle is ever going to quite match the refuel time of a gas pump. It's just a lot of physics and battery management systems that are going to prevent that from really being possible. So that's why behind all of the electric vehicles rumored to come out over the next few years, very many that I'm excited to talk about and interested to see more and hear more about, there's only one other electric vehicle outside of our Tesla that we've actually put down a deposit on, that we've actually reserved. And that's one that could theoretically bypass this whole needing to stop and charge thing for a lot of our drives, and that's the Aptera. This is my favorite company in the world right now. I love the updates they're putting out, and the reason I still have a reservation on one, no matter how long it takes, luckily we're not in any rush question, we're still happy with the Model 3. It still feels like the new car. But if there was one we were considering getting additionally to our Model 3, it would be something that had such absurdly long range that you would actually stop caring about the DC fast charging capability. Because on their higher range option, which they go into detail on how they exactly plan on achieving this 1,000 mile range with about a 109 kilowatt hour battery pack using these new cells that haven't even come out yet. 1,000 miles of driving is gonna take you, even if you're going, 70 miles an hour, that's over 14 hours of driving on the highway before you ran out of range on that maximum option with the Aptera. And because of that, there's actually a lot of destinations we could get to literally without stopping. And because the Aptera is such an absurdly efficient vehicle, with its solar cells and extremely aerodynamic design, we'd probably be able to just plug in with a standard 110 outlet with whoever we were visiting, or even if we were doing a cross-country like road trip where we're stopping overnight somewhere, eventually you just gotta take a break and rest. The hotels are very likely to have level 2 chargers, which I could easily plug into and get a full charge overnight. And that's kind of the amazing thing that is unlocked by the Aptera's absurd efficiency, is that the DC fast charging would actually start to become a little bit unnecessary, depending on how fast you're driving. Obviously, if you're taking it 85, 90 miles per hour everywhere, you might drain the battery pack a lot faster. But knowing that there's a chance, even if it doesn't quite hit its range figures, that I could drive from my place all the way up to a family member's house way out of state that's like 700, 800 miles away without technically needing to stop and charge. Of course, you might stop and use the restroom or stop or get some food, but at no point in the trip will the limiting factor be the battery pack needs to stop and charge. It's just you need to stop and take a break and you need to get some food. No one should probably be sitting down for that long anyway. So that kind of range, in my opinion, is a bit more game changing than just getting, oh, okay, a couple dozen more miles there. Because obviously, even if I bought a Model S or a Lucid Air, I'm still going to need to stop and charge a couple of times on those big drives. But with the Aptera, there's a greater chance that I won't have to stop at all, or maybe I'll only have to stop once for just a couple minutes to top off. And on top of that, the Aptera is catering to a market that is more affordable. Even their maxed out option is still under $50,000, which is far more reasonable for us than a Model S or a Lucid or a Model X, which are all looking well north of $70,000. And on top of that, even if the Cybertruck is this like supercharging beast that can accept great speeds and has a great charging curve and everything, it's still going to end up costing us a lot more because it's a less efficient vehicle. So you're going to end up paying for that by the mile, by the kilowatt hour. So it's going to increase the overall cost of the road trip. Whereas the Aptera, because it's using so little energy per mile, even if you are paying for supercharging, it's going to be less than half the price of supercharging a vehicle like our Model 3. And of course, on top of that, we reserved the Aptera with the full solar package, which should be bringing in about 4 kilowatt hours of energy per day just by sitting around in the sun, which 4 kilowatt hours in another electric vehicle isn't going to get you very far, but in a hyper efficient vehicle like that can get you 40 miles of range per day. And a lot of the time, I don't drive that much, so we'd probably never need to plug our Aptera in because it would just be in our driveway at home, charging up from the sun and being topped off. And then whenever we feel like heading out for a big road trip to visit a friend or family member hundreds of miles away, we would just, set the charge limit to 100% and then let it top off the day before, and then we'd be ready to go with nearly 1,000 miles of range in the tank, arrive at our destination, and while we're there, probably not going to be driving around more than 40 miles a day. So leave it in the sun, let it charge up for free, and then we could get free charging miles regardless of if Tesla is honoring supercharging miles with their referral program or not. Right now, they're letting people redeem all of their referral credits on free supercharging, which is great, but they've taken it away before, and there's a good chance they'll take it away again in the future if they want more supercharging revenue coming in, or they want you to use those referral credits towards something else. But if there's a vehicle that's just super duper efficient natively and can charge itself from the sun, then you're not going to miss out on free supercharging because of some referral program. You just may miss out on free charging because of, I don't know, a cloudy day, or you need to drive extra long and you didn't have enough solar miles. So out of all of the vehicles that have been announced that we've talked about on this channel, all of which I'm excited for and I can't wait to talk more about, the Aptera, because I'm looking for something with just a decent amount of cargo space, but 1 to 2 seats is going to cover our needs fine. That's why it's the only electric vehicle we've actually reserved, and that's the one you should expect me to be the most interested in moving forward. No, I'm not planning on buying any SUVs or high passenger vehicles or faster charging vehicles at this time, but of course I'll keep you updated if anything else else changes. Hopefully that helped you see inside my mind of what I'm prioritizing for my next electric vehicle purpose. But yeah, but sure, I understand it could easily be a long while before Aptera is ready, but when plugging into the Aptera, which is actually supported on a better route planner, it's looking like I could shave multiple hours off of our road trip with that vehicle compared to a Model S or a Lucid Air. Those aren't going to be as fast at Cannonball records, and they're going to cost way more anyway. So now you know what I'm most interested in for my next purchase. What are you guys looking for in your next EV? Did you start off with a Tesla or Rivian or a GM electric vehicle? Let me know your history, what you guys are prioritizing now that you own one, or what is your first planned electric vehicle going to be. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.